fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rid of the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up to
Oh my God!
Oh, big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, here we go!
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my God!
God, what?
Carolina, where the field is rolling out for the start of today's 400-lap race on this .625-mile racetrack. Here's the starting lineup. On the pole from Dawsonville, Georgia, in the number 9 Coors Ford qualifying and Winston Cup race from North Wilkesboro is underway. Everybody nicely through turns number 1 and 2 as Bill Elliott has the lead and Dale Earnhardt has jumped into second position, followed by Benny Parsons and Bobby Allison.
Georgia, Bill Elliott, straining car number 9 to bring it home. 10 Carling, Bill Elliott, two-time winner of the Great American Race. Now the out of fuel Bill Elliott and Dale Earnhardt is going to win the Trans-South 500, his second win of 1987.
Everybody, and welcome to the 17th week of the NASCAR iRacing Series, following the exact schedule of what we should have been running this year in NASCAR in real life, which means this week we head to Chicagoland, the never-ending left turn. The back straight is not a straight at all, and we've got 134 laps ahead of us today, right here on the iRacing Esports Network, coming to you thanks to SimSpeed TV. My name is Ryan Jones, alongside me Justin Prince, Jake Kennedy. Behind the scenes, Justin, looking forward to this one.
Absolutely looking to what should be an exciting race for a lot of these competitors. It's going to be also a difficult one, mind you, because it's, again, one of those mile-and-a-half racetracks where you're carrying a lot of speed around the racetrack, meaning we're going to see a lot of drivers who are, in turn, going to either push the car a lot or, in turn, save their tires a lot to be able to fly away from the pack by the end of today's race.
Good to get back to an Oval 2 after Sonoma last week, where we saw some new faces running up at the front. Well, we see most of our normal names returning. Blake Neer, currently fastest. And it's tight between himself and Patrick Moses, 0.02 of a second between them. Boyd Hogan also looking to return to form near the front. And CJ LeVere, what can he do?
Yeah, there are a lot of good competitors in this field today. Justin Bolton from the NASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series has been quick throughout the week. Patrick Moose and the rest of the Nexus machines have been quick this week, as well as many of the F5 cars, as well as many of the big players. But it's going to be important for drivers today to make sure they maintain and balance how they handle that speed, because it can be so easy to overexert your equipment on the short run. And as we've seen in these races so far, Ryan, track position is key. If you don't have it, you have a hard time getting yourself to the front.
Yeah, that dirty air can really affect you in these cars when you're reaching speeds in excess of 290 kilometers an hour, getting north of 200 miles an hour on approach to these corners, punching a big hole in the air, and you lose a lot of downforce when you're in behind someone. You really got to look after your tires so you can overcome that, and going to be tricky in that aspect to make sure you're still in with a shot. When you get down to the end of the race, if this goes green for the majority, as we expect, Hogan going to set his first lap time of the session here. What's it going to be as he dives down to the apron, shortcutting his track as much as he can, and it's a lap time that puts it up to 6th place as Jonathan Hernandez goes to the top in the meantime.
With this package, though, the second lap is fairly quick as well. Only needs to gain about a 10th or so to put him in line with the pole, and that's been a lot of how these cars have done. Keep in mind, his teammate, Jonathan Hernandez, has that pole time and is within that 10th range.
Finds a big improvement, and he goes to pole with that second lap, 29.002. Puts him up at the top by 0.75 of a tenth. Big margin compared to what it was before he put that time down. But that's everyone done in qualifying. So let's have a look at how our field is going to line up here in Chicagoland. So it will be Boyd Hogan on pole position, and he'll have Jonathan Hernandez to his outside. Daniel Williborn and Blake Neal off row 2. And then Patrick Moose, James Mullins on the 3rd row of the grid. Robert Miller and CJ LeVea starting from 7th and 8th. Ty Ilapilo and Keith Bridgman on row 5.
Joshua Campbell in row number 6 alongside Joseph Plant. Seth Ryder starts in 13th tonight, with his fellow teammate and points leader in this series, Garrett Maines, not taking part in this evening's event. The flag is being given to him from Elliott Sauer Esports from the team. Guy Seela starts in 14th position alongside him, with Austin G. Johnson in 15th. Jonathan Darwimple starts in 16th with Matt Forkapod driving the Lowline Racing Machine from 17th. Bradley Erickson, a notable name if you remember from the Replacement Series, a part of Team Penske's design team. He's made his way to top split. He starts in 18th. Wesley Pistol and Michael Watkins round out the top 20.
21st will be Jake Waltman and Justin Bolton, Nicholas Shelton, Michael Abrams, Dustin Hall, Eduardo Oliveira, Joe Karev, Larry Mulligan, Michael Baker making up the top 30. We've got a 36 car field ready for this one.
It's going to be tough sledding for the drivers deep in the field. Chris White, Nick Miller, Keith Vaughn, Kyle Rhodes, Dustin Johnson electing to start in the back, as well as Joshua L. Adams. So keep an eye on some of those drivers today, and also keep in mind, these drivers are going to have to deal with a very cold track, meaning these drivers likely going to have a tough time breaking away, Ryan, compared to some of the earlier NIS Open races this week.
Yeah, a lot of grip out there with a cool track, 29 degrees, 85 degrees Fahrenheit. So, plenty of grip for them to work with. Going to be tough to break away. A lot more on throttle time than, say, the track was about 20 degrees hotter and 134 laps ahead of us. What are we expecting from the pit strategy?
Well, a lot of drivers with these types of races can go 50 to 60 laps on the fuel. Expecting a lot of drivers, if it goes green, to go 50, 100 to the checker flag. Here's the tricky part. A lot of times, as this run progresses, drivers have that aero push we talked about a little bit, and it can trigger caution flags, which could put a wrench in a lot of the strategy. At times, Ryan, at this track, there have been fuel mileage races which have come down to splash and goes in this track's history in NIS competition back in 2019.
Yeah, the way this season's gone, it wouldn't surprise me at all if we had a finish as close as that where it comes down to the field. It's been a fantastic season so far. We've seen great races at most of the tracks we've visited. A good mix of close battling, strategy plays, and lots of green flag racing. This is, of course, the top split. Best of the best.
These drivers, mind you, a lot of them are competing for NIS championships. Many of them, too, are either trying to have fun or trying to continue to get more seat time or try and build up their experience for other competitions such as the Road to Pro. So tonight, a lot of weight once again on races such as this to see how you can do against some of the top teams in all of iRacing and show you're able to build the best cars and race those cars to victory lane.
Well, now it's all eyes on the track as the iRacing.com Ford Mustang will dive down out of turn number 4, field in the hands of Boyd Hogan. He goes early, and we go racing here in Chicagoland. A good jump for Hogan. Hernandez will tuck down in behind him. Down into turn 1 we go.
One of the things to keep in mind with those front 2 cars, they've been quick throughout the week here, Ryan. For Hogan, has led 55% of the laps in the previous 2 NIS Opens here at Chicagoland in 2020 as Hernandez gets shuffled out.
Big slide, and he hits the fence as well. That was strange from Hernandez, and he will go a long way down the order, and he'll have damage to the right-hand side of that car as well. So, Hernandez, a big moment. We stay green, but I didn't see any contact. It looked like the car just got away from him.
Yeah, that was indeed the case there, Ryan. For him, unfortunately, puts him into the back part of the field to 14th spot. So now it's going to be the matter of trying to recover, and keep in mind, you add damage to these cars, it can be fairly tricky, as already some of the top drivers are sorting themselves out here.
Blake Neer just got himself up into 3rd place ahead of Patrick Moose. Running on board with Moose. You can see the top 3 guys lined up in front of him, running down the bottom of the racetrack. Of course, in real life in Chicagoland, it becomes a multi-group racetrack. Don't think this race is quite going to be long enough to see any changes to the preferred racing line here, JP.
Yeah, if you're not at the bottom on corner entry, you're likely to lose the spot. You don't want to go too much higher up, or else it burns up a lot of the tires. It's not like, say, Kansas, where it was a top-feeding track by Friday. So expect a lot of drivers to try and feather the throttle, get to the white line in the corners, and make sure they don't hit the bump right where we see those cars, because if you smack that splitter, it can push your car right up into traffic.
Daniel Wilborn looks like he might be under a bit of pressure from Blake Neer. He's starting to drop away from Hogan, and Neer is looking to get by him. In fact, he's looking to the inside. As we ride on board on the inside line, he takes that spot away. Can he slide up in front of Wilborn and take his lane away? He can, and that allows Patrick Moose now to get underneath Wilborn too, so he can lose out 2 spots here.
Keep in mind, Neer works with the column in the NASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series, so has a lot of set knowledge. That car is likely going to be very quick, so we'll have to see if he's able to maintain the pace. But, by the way, Boyd's checking off and sailing away, Ryan. And this was something that was talked about throughout the week. He's off already by 0.4 of a second in front of the pack.
Yeah, he sends see you later to those guys. Wilborn lost 3 spots. James Mullins was by him as well, so it was a dreadful lap for him after getting shuffled out of line. You can see how easy it is to get freight chain once you end up off and a lane up the racetrack and cars here inside. What a battle for P12 as well, and P6 too. On board with CJ Levea, sporting the iRacing.com livery.
DHR machines. Those cars have also been very quick on the short run of the first 15-20 laps throughout the week so far. A heck of a job so far, Levere. One of the strongest beginnings of a race I've seen from in a while. A +4 from the drop of the green flag. One of the bigger movers of this race so far.
Yeah, Bradley Erickson as well has got +6. And we're on board actually with Erickson, who's in a battle and trying to fend off Richmond, who gets down to his inside. So Erickson's going to lose a spot here. Might lose 2 if he's not careful. He's going to have to slot down in line. find that hole behind the 24, but got a great run out of turn 2 there, and powering back, getting half a car length ahead, and then turn 3, not able to continue the momentum, tucks down behind. It's a good awareness there to get himself back in line. Casts our eyes back towards the P2 battle. Patrick Moose in P2, James Mullins slipping on by Blake Neer now.
Now that makes it a Nexus 2-3, so the Nexus cars are starting to move their way up to the field. Keep in mind, Robert Miller's also in this pack as well. So that speed's starting to show up again. It's going to be important that they get themselves sorted out, though, because the more they stay side by side, Brian, the more it holds them up down some of the corners, and the more that allows other drivers to run away.
And just like Daniel Wilborn before, Blake Neer ends up on the top and loses a handful of spots for his efforts. James Mullins, Wilborn, and now Miller all go by him before he finally gets in line back in 6th place. Hogan's been caught as well. Patrick Moose is caught up to his back bumper. We're on board with Hogan, looking back, and you can see them all stacked up in a line, and that's a great run that Moose has got off of turn 2. He shows that nose down low, and this could be a change from the lead. The number 4 car looking to take it away, and he will do so.
Yeah, Hogan that time just let him have the spot. Knew he had the run, and at this point, you're just trying to stay nice and relaxed and trying to keep your tires calm and cool and make sure they're able to have the fastest pace in 50 laps. That's exactly what I think Hogan's doing, and he's not afraid to lose these spots to potentially then gain them on back maybe in the later going.
Yeah, expecting this race to have minimal cautions. The quality of drivers who got on this field and how much of this track is full throttle. So Hogan setting himself up for the long run here. He'll drop another spot now as James Mullins goes by. And Daniel Wilborn will look to follow him through as well. So now he's set up in a position where he could lose a few spots very easily as guys look to go by him. We've seen Wilborn have that issue. We've seen Neer have that issue. Now he's going to have it as well. Just behind them, CJ LeVere going to lose out as Seth Ryder ducks down to his inside through the tri-oval and slides back up in front of him by the time they reach turn 1. Ty Ippolito down there as well. LeVere losing 2 spots.
LeVere that time just let him on go, knew he was holding him up a bit. And that's again the difficulty of building a car, Ryan, on iRacing, because it's very technical. You need a lot of knowledge and a lot of time put in the car to know how it's going to react in 15, 30, 40, 60 laps in a run. And a lot of times, what you may feel comfortable with if you, say, go into a practice session for 15 laps might fall apart on a long green flag run. And that's, I think, what's happening with some of these cars who lean towards that direction.
Here's Justin Bolton, number 1 rated driver in the session, battling for P14, and with a great move, he'll take it. That's Joseph Planning, who's just gone by. Now, remember back on lap 1, we saw that big wobble and contact with a safer barrier that fired poor old Jonathan Hernandez all the way back down the order, and now back in 25th, and I dare say struggling as a result of damage to the right side of that car.
Yeah, that arrow, if you hit it hard enough, like you did, especially with how crinkled up that right front is, some drivers have described it as very loose. I've had that personal experience myself in a lot of these races. Any aerodynamic damage, it likely means you are a sitting duck until you get a caution flag. And again, with the nature of this track, that is going to be extremely rare today, as now LeVere's already dropped to 12.
24 hanging tough on the top side there. And in fact, going to prevail. That's Bridgman. He's up to 8th place now. So he's doing a good job, starting from 10th.
Keep in mind that 12 machine just got loose the previous corner before that pass was set up. But to get to the point on Bridgman, he's kind of gone under the radar and has been one of the strongest drivers I've seen at a lot of the races. He'll quietly be able to dominate races. Again, part of F5 Motorsports, who have been extremely strong in 2020. And I think he's been one of the driving forces based on the performances he's been able to bring to that team and the experience he's been able to help bring to those Lockhart built race cars.
Yeah, exactly. And looking to add a NIS trophy to the cabinet there. You can get it done here in Chicagoland. Boyd Hogan now trying to go back forwards, and he'll begin that by going by James Mullins and slotting up into P2, half a second back of Patrick Moose at the moment. Mullins not opting to dive down below the apron there, opting to stay up and on the normal racing surface. What's the pros and cons of diving down to the bottom and not doing it?
Well, the pros and cons for diving straight down to the bottom is, the pro is you're able to force the driver on that top side to have to let up or else risking contact or blowing the corner or blowing their tires. The downside is, though, a lot of drivers don't like you to immediately send it down to the bottom side because a lot of them, depending on circumstance, will not give you as much space compared to some others. So it depends on a case-by-case situation, Ryan, in that regard.
Yeah, and we'll see drivers utilising the apron all the way down to the end of the race as well. A big factor of racing on these mile and a halves is utilising that apron. It's all fair game down there. Only tracks where you can't use it on oval racing is where the double yellow lines are on the super speedways. It's pretty tight. Justin Bolton moving forward now in 11th place. It's Matt Forcarper up top.
Bolton's been described by some of his competitors as the second best car throughout the entire week. It's been essentially a car on rails on really all the FSR machines. And a bit of slipping and sliding up towards the front. Some panic for some of the lead cars apparently after Hogan got loose. Screamed over the radio. He was all right though, Ryan.
Still running in second, but be a heart-racing moment for him. Starting to get close to lapping a driver or two now as well. Keith Vaughan is only a couple seconds up the road from Patrick Moose. And that'll cast some dirty air over his front end as well when he gets there. When you start to catch lapped cars that are running for position, running side by side with each other, that's when it really starts to become difficult. And if we stay green for another 25 laps, that will become an issue for these guys. He's looking back over the bright green lid of Ryan Shelton as Cesar Vea gets by and up into P13.
Ippolito scratched the wall a little bit there, Ryan, in the AOD racing machine. That's what was able to build enough momentum to make the pass. No way why that distance grew. But some of the Nexus drivers, again, trying to line up and keep up with first and second here. Based on what we're seeing, to try and freight train their way back up to their teammate and Patrick Moose, who's still up in the lead.
And Moose doing a good job now of maintaining that margin. He's got that little buffer back to Hogan, Mullins, Miller, who are the three chasing. He's not coming under much threat at the moment as a result of that. Behind Miller is a small gap back to everyone else. Seth Ryder by himself in 5th. And then the battle for 6th on back. It's all pretty tight from there on. And this is the number 9 of Daniel Wilborn. There's Justin Bolton with a big dive up at turn 3. Came from a long way back. In fact, that car he's just passed is moving rather slowly. This vehicle is Shelton, I think. No, this is Shelton. He's the next car to get to this guy. Austin Johnson that was slow through 3 and 4 there.
Yeah, some of the co-veterans moving their way up to the field. And mind you, Bolton is 0.2 of a second quicker than the leader. Only person who ran in the 5s last time by was Hogan. So those cars are on rails. They elected to stay in the back again because anything can happen on the short ones at these tracks, and it's a true test of their speed if they can cut their way to the field to be able to tell, will this car work, say, if we need to go to this track in the future for an event.
I think for Shelton, it's ticking the box of long run pace as he puts himself up in the top 10 for the first time today after starting from 23rd. And that little margin I was talking about for Patrick Moose starting to disintegrate. Hogan's pouring them in, dragging Mullins and Miller with him.
Yeah, I think Hogan's just trying to set this up. And the dirtier makes it so difficult to be able to line this up properly. But if you try and back up the corner entry, ramp it on down the corner, and take away the bottom side on corner exit, a lot of times that's how you can set it up.
Seems to be telegraphed to have an over-under move. Wide on the entry, low on the exit, and worked very well for him. Lap 30 of 134, 32 to be precise, so we're about, what, halfway through the run we expect. Here we go. Down the inside, and Hogan is not going to fight it. He will relinquish the lead of the race, and Patrick Moose back to the front. Keith Vaughn going to keep himself up high out of the way as the leading quartet come to lap him.
Yeah, and I think that was just almost the case of Moose just letting him go as, oh my goodness, Keith Vaughn.
He drifted down the track on the exit, and Patrick Moose, Joe's Mullins, they were on the way up the racetrack as that happened, but almost came together in the middle. Very close to contact.
Drivers are asking about the exact position he wanted at that point. That time, he nearly drifted a lane and a half down. That could have been massive for the lead pack. You do not want to see that or have that little of space off the corner with how much space you need to properly get speed.
Got our first retirement of a race as well. The number 28, unfortunately, had enough. Can't continue. That's Brady Erickson.
Apparently Erickson had some damage, was back in 25th position after being as high as the top 12. Unfortunately for the Bullet and the Phoenix, Arizona driver, not able to finish the race even to the first pit stop of this race. That traffic, though, with Vaughn, though, is causing some chaos. Some of the lead cars, though, he's not been given a lot of space off the corner exits, Ryan.
Yeah, sure the drivers would have heard about that close encounter that the leading group had, and now they've either got two options, and one's to either run them really tight and make life difficult for them, or give them a wide berth. Wide berth was the option there, but again, Vaughn was very low off the exit of the corner.
Yeah, and now he's blocking Bolton. Boxed in Bolton in the traffic. All this is while the top four have been able to run away in part because all the rest of the lead cars are losing a tenth or two trying to get around Vaughn.
Not making any friends out there, that's for sure. Right now. Top four continuing to skip away. 2 seconds to get back to Ryder. It's been like that for quite a while now. He's just been circulating by himself and be pretty lonely. He'll see that leading quartet up in front of him. And if he looks in his mirror, he'll see a little ways off, about a second or two behind, a group of cars that snags a long way down the order. At least for him, he's in some relatively clean air and able to conserve his tyres.
And keep in mind, remember though, even with the speed and even with the Nexus driver starting to cycle through, Bolton and Shelton are charging up as a new race leader. It's Mullins.
And again, we see once a car gets to the inside, there's no way to defend the spot. And your best defense is to breathe the throttle and tuck back in behind them straight away to avoid losing more places. But losing more places is exactly what's going to happen to Boyd Hogan here as Robert Miller draws alongside, and Patrick Moose is right there to capitalize as well.
Now keep in mind, a lot of the teams work together to try and build up speed. Not just once they find some good speed, Ryan, they say, oh, I'm done, and clap their hands. They try and build speed into the cars. Talking with Hogan, added at least 3 tenths estimated today on the run one at this point onward. Nexus, though, it looks like they may have found an extra half a tenth or so to be able to group up and get away. But here comes the rest of the drivers we're talking about. Bolton's now coming in hard.
Clawed his way up onto the back of Seth Ryder very quickly. And he's dragging Keith Bridgman with him. So Seth Ryder is about to have some company for the first time in over 20-odd laps. And he might be actually a little bit disappointed in that because it's guys coming from behind that are going to give him that company. I don't think this is going to be too difficult for Bolton to complete this move either.
Yeah, Bolton again has been consistently in the 31.5s with or without draft. Again, whatever they have worked on, they found something for the base, and already Bolton is expecting to let him go. Meanwhile, the descent to Blake Neer continues.
Now he's outside of the top 10, falling to 11th after running as high as second when he started on the outside of the second row as well. And he will probably want to make some adjustments to that car when he first brings it to pit road. We're thinking a one-stop strategy here, Justin?
It's out of the realm of realisticness based on the fuel numbers, because an inexperienced Ryan, again, on the 1.5 miles, you can go up to about 59, 60-ish laps, maybe a 62-ish if you save, but that's still out of the window by about a few laps. Plus, you have to make sure you don't have the tires pop. But that doesn't mean you can't go for an undercut.
Exactly. So, expect a two-stopper if this stays green. But if a caution comes out with about 60 to go, we'll see everyone down in pit road, irrespective of when they last pitted, to try and fill themselves up to get home to the end. Mullins has not been allowed to skip away.
I think this is just the team goal. Try and freight train away before the pit stops start and use the draft to their advantage. It's very cold, which means it's more like a super speedway, but the track temp has gone up dramatically for the start of the pit stops in the short pit window.
Keith Bridgman takes a hard left turn. He comes to pit road as Robert Miller goes to the lead of the race. So Bridgman, the first driver to blink. And Hogan's dropping, isn't he? He's back in 5th place now. Dalton's gone ahead of him.
Yeah, that time again, wide arc to try and let him go that time. I think he might have some adjustments coming at this rate in the pit stop window. Freight train is just continuing to just run away, and I think Boyce realized at this point he needs to come down. Just call it on the radio. He's coming this time by in the 2.
Yeah, his car starting to fall away from him as this run continues. Contrary to what we were expecting when we saw him sort of racing up at the front earlier on and not pushing too hard, Justin Bolton joins him down on pit road as well. So that 45, we're seeing pit stops here. Drivers looking to split this race into even stints.
And that should be the expectation here as 2 of the Nexus cars pit. They forgot James Mullins there. So it looks like they elected to pit. Well, Mullins is going to have to come down the next lap, and there's a chance he's going to be the 3rd car now in the line for the Nexus team.
Left by himself, we'll see if this extra lap is a beneficial or a hindrance to his overall position in this race. As he jumps on the brakes, takes the left-hand turn down across the banking change onto the apron and into pit road he goes. I think it's underestimated how tricky it is to actually bring a car to pit road on an oval.
Oh, we have a near spin on the pit road. Austin G. Johnson, one of the SPG cars, I think just about hit the commitment cone, locking it up and trying to make sure he can get on the brakes in his Toyota Camry. Had a massive amount of speed, about in the 60 mile an hour range. Speed limit is 50, mind you. Nearly spun it.
The XD, the lap before that Bridgman pitted, has given him a massive boost because Patrick Moose is a long way behind him. Boyd Hogan, in fact, it's a slow stop for Moose because Boyd Hogan's jumped him as well. So Moose has made a big error, and the caution comes out, and this is going to throw things up in the air.
And I think this is for Dustin Hall. From 35th position, a rough race for Hall. Was already a lap, 2 laps down. Just lost it in 1 and 2. That just may have burned a lot of people's races right there, Ryan.
Yeah, you never want to see a caution come out in the middle of a pit stop phase as a driver because it's so easy for the race to get turned on its head as a result. And we're going to see under this caution cycle whose races have been burnt and who have been the lucky people that are going to capitalize from this.
Keep in mind, Hall did blow his engine from that. Adams and Wright, Rose, Waltman, Watkins, and I think Michael K. Baker had all not pit before the caution flag came out. So they're now going to be at the front of the field with this. While a lot of the drivers who tried to go for the overcut, they just lost all their track position from that. Drivers like Wilborn are going to be deep in the field from this.
Cars on pit road now. Include Justin Bolton, who takes a tour and rejoins Jake Waltman on the lane as well, as you mentioned. And yeah, Patrick Moose, it was a slow pit stop cycle for him. He's actually behind Nicholas Shelton on the racetrack now.
That's 16 seconds in the pit box specifically for Patrick Moose. Lost him a few positions. And one of the main things you have to remember is it's difficult to make sure you manage that speed without overrunning your pit box while making sure you maximize the amount of time gained. For the case of Moose, it almost seemed like he stopped a little too far forward, and that lost him that 2 seconds we were talking about.
And no pit speed limiter on a NASCAR vehicle as well. You've got to manually keep yourself at the pit road speed, which means you can lose a couple tenths there very easily if you just run a kilometer or so below the limit down pit road. You can also cost yourself a lap if you go a kilometer or 2 over the limit and net yourself a speeding penalty. It's a fine margin to run.
And keep in mind, too, we're talking about pit stop windows and pit stop strategies and whatnot throughout this. There are now only 20 cars in the lead lap. Plenty of drivers are not in position to even take the wave because they were among the undercutters who were deep in the pack in the first place, Ryan. And because not all the leaders pit, they never got their lead lap back. In our words, this whole field's been flipped upside down as it looks like Mullins, Bridgman, and Miller elected to stay on the old tires while Adams hit and was still able to keep fourth, apparently.
Well, the pace car picked up whoever it did, but then
Which was Adams.
A whole host of people got waved around it, and now the first car is Nick Miller, who's a lap down. First lead lap car in line is Seth Ryder, who's back in 12th, and behind about 4 laps cars. So a little bit curious as to how it picked up Ryder to be the race leader, but he will be when we go back green.
Yep. Got some information, by the way, on what happened to Dustin Hall. Apparently, he fell out of his van seat, is the explanation he has given to his fellow competitors. Some drivers race while they're on the go, and there's a chance, say, if you're in a van, you're trying to race in with, say, the steering wheel set up on the dashboard or something. Likely fell out of that seat, and that may cause the wreck there. Unfortunately for the crew chief, for Brandon Cattell from the NASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series.
There's always an explanation, isn't there? My continued quest to find out who the leader of the race is now says James Mullins, and that Seth Ryder and Blake Nia and everyone in between them are actually trapped 95% of a lap down, and we'll have to take a wave round with the 1 to go signal here.
Yeah. Yeah, based on, and a lot of drivers I think are still trying to sort where they're supposed to be here with all this, because you've got drivers who stayed out who are still scored, mind you, with how far back they were on the track behind others who were able to come down in for fresh tires and just came down the pit lane on this caution flag. So the whole running order has been flipped upside down, and this is going to be absolutely nerve-wracking because it's going to make it difficult on this short run, and it's going to make it interesting how these drivers play it. It's still a one-stopper on the fuel.
Yeah, still need to make one more stop to make it home. We're about... How far are we from that critical lap? I'm too tired to do quick maths. Justin? 20 laps, says Jay behind the scenes.
Yeah, there's still a 20 laps out. But it essentially is a 40-40 to the end. We're under 80 laps to go. You can split it, go with 40 to go. Be good on tires. It gives you a 10 to 20 lap window to try and stretch it from here on out. Oh, by the way, talking about numbers, we've seen the cooler track temps to start off the race. It's been varying by about 15-20 degrees Fahrenheit for the drop of the green flag with the clouds.
Yeah, it's cooled down a lot. This should be a very interesting restart. Plenty of strategy to play out if this one goes green. Setting up to be a fantastic race here at Chicagoland. James Mullins in control of the field. And we get the green flag back out in the air. Really good jump from Mullins. Miller going to go with him. Poor start for Bridgman. They are stacked up behind Hogan.
I think that time just trying to squeeze out Adams that time, forcing the 27 up to the top. And some of the fellow Alliance team members, that Shelton lining up now, slip angle car with one of the Bobby Dale Earnhardt Legacy Esports machines.
They're pushing each other through the corners at the moment. No lifting off right now. As Matt Forcarper was glued to the back bumper of Patrick Moose, Shelton glued to the back bumper of Boyd Hogan. Hogan now up into 4th. And now Shelton looks to his inside down the back straight. Into turn 3, takes it away. Hogan slots in line.
Yeah, he caught on the radio. Just go is what he told him. So the pace, I think you can tell. Shelton wants the lead, and there's a chance he can take it. Remember, he was one of the quickest cars on the track in the first 45 laps of this race.
He was, so look out for him now as he challenges Bridgman. Bridgman was a big beneficiary to his early stop and then the caution. Restarted up the order. was running third there, gets out of line, now dropping a few spots. Look how far Shelton is. He almost clipped the grass there as he forced his way to the left-hand side of Robert Miller, who lets him go. And now just one man remains in front of Nicholas Shelton in his quest to go from 23rd to 1st. 60 laps into this race, it happens.
Not even going to put up a fight that time. Just let him on go. Just drove by him like he was standing still, and he's still trying to pull away. Was 4/10 quicker than most of the people inside the top 10.
If he can somehow break free of that invisible magnet that everyone has in the back of their car once they're leading, which is of course the slipstream effect they give to everyone behind, he will be in very good stead with the pace he was showing over the course of the entire first run, but going to be extremely difficult to make that come to fruition. And already on that lap, the lap times equalize back in favor of the chasing group. Up the racetrack goes for Carper in the background, and capitalizing on that will be Kyle Rhodes getting down to his door on the inside. Everyone wadding up behind him, looking to find a way through as well.
And those are lap cars, mind you, in that mix. Wilborn's in 21st. Keep in mind, Abrams is back in 23rd position. He also tried to go for the undercut, was pinned a lap down. And part of this, I think, is because the technical issue, you see if the road is flick apart. It's just stacking everyone up and making everyone afraid to try and make a pass because they don't know exactly where he's going to be. And if he comes back to the wrong place, it can wreck the entire field.
Yeah, so Kyle Rhodes was a lap down making that move. He's trying to get himself back on the lead lap and fight for the lucky dog position as well. Obviously, you mentioned Wilborn. Currently not in position to get that because he's now got 3 cars between himself and the lucky dog, and a lot of track between them as well. And William Amshoff also a lap down, fighting for position with Larry Mulligan and Michael Abrams. Few fast guys trapped a lap off the pace. Now Bridgman to the inside for Carper, and Daniel Wilborn just trying to stay out of the way and then pick up the pieces here as he drifts up the track, gets into the marbles, has to lift off, and that's going to cost him a whole host of time as everyone filters on by.
I think they've all lost their patience with the low-line racing car. At this point, they're just letting him run where he wants to ride and then hit a line and just say, you know what? We're just going to drive on by him. And I think everyone's now getting the picture. They're all starting to stack up on the bottom line to make sure they can all follow the freight train.
Before Carper gets shuffled down to... Where does he get shuffled down to? To 8th place, in amongst the lap car in front, lap car behind, make that 9th then. Cito Lavea on the charge. Look at the pace he's got down this main straight. To the inside. Great run.
And Lemaire's been so good in the first 15 laps of a run this race. It's just been the difficult part of making sure the tires don't light up and lose the pace he needs and get too tight. See right here, you have to get off the throttle if you get more and more speed this way, as we're now halfway in this race.
There is an abnormal amount of chatter going on over the in-game radio too, isn't there, Justin? I haven't turned it on, but you don't often see a constant stream of chatting when you're in the green flag runs. Normally it's a comment here, a comment there, but constant from these drivers.
Welcome to iRacing.
Check.
Welcome to iRacing. That can happen at times. It can
Chatty brute.
It can break the focus of drivers. I think it's just, again, a lot of the drivers trying to figure out, how are you back this deep in the field with some of the pace we've seen from them? In part, just a curiosity. Not everyone's a fan of it, though, I have to say.
Yeah, there's multiple drivers in the 20s position-wise running the pace of a top 5 car running in the top 10 in terms of track position. Can we talk for a moment about Joshua Adams and his run up the order? Started stone cold last, now 7th.
You talk about somebody capitalizing on the position of a caution flag, again, was deep in the field before the start of the pit window. It only was around the top 15-ish. Haven't even mentioned his name once, and now he's inside the top 10 as one of the quicker cars of the track. So the question's going to be, how long can he hold it? As there goes CJ, his pace now starting to drop off. No, that's Hogan actually letting by LeVere that time.
Yeah, LeVere continuing to move up. That's Hogan letting him go. Behind Amshoff and Mulliken, trying to get themselves ever closer to getting a lap back. Remember the guy we saw making his way forward earlier, Kyle Rhodes, he's now got to the back of Patrick Moose. His quest to get back on the lead lap isn't as crucial as those guys behind him. He's in the lucky dog spot. He can't afford to be caught by them and lose that position should another caution come out.
Yeah,
Close to the top.
Yeah, but Mullins has done a great job keeping within the ground. His teammates have been able to keep the main pace. But one of the things people seem to forget when it comes to James Mullins is when he's dialed in and focused, he can beat any driver on the track. And guess what? He's running toe-to-toe near dead-even pace with a former driver in the NASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series and one of the top drivers in Road to Pro. So Mullins is doing exactly what many people, I think, expect him to do in these type of big races. He just hasn't flashed as much as some people may have expected so far in 2020. Say though, Ryan, this is the most intriguing thing I've seen with all the lap traffic here. Normally you see drivers wanting to test out their pace and see how they compete with the lead lap cars as say Bolton, but I've never seen them drive all the way up just about to the lead pack like we've seen some of these cars.
And there is so many of them. You don't have to see it in this volume as well, do you? Half those cars on your screen are pretty much lap cars, and pretty much all of them have the pace to run with these guys. This is a very intriguing race indeed. There's always something here in the NASCAR iRacing Series to set it apart. Today, it's Revenge of the Lap Cars.
Fuel window's now open from this point on, so it's going to be interesting who's the first drivers to try and undercut. Getting a bit dicey though, about 9th on back, with Bolton still trying to get by a lot of those lap cars. Nearly hit the back end of Adams and now has to get through a couple of the lap cars to be able to get to 8th.
Yeah, that's the other downside to lap cars, is affecting the leaders, the lead lap group guys in their battle. Obviously, you mentioned that he's got a few lap guys now to get by if he wants to get up to 8th place. Just navigated by them, but it's tough because no blue flags obviously in NASCAR, and this is why we're seeing so many of these battles. Really impressed with how Kyle Rhodes has maintained his pace though after driving up the order, and he's sticking with Patrick Moose a few car lengths back from him, and Moose is actually driving forward at the moment.
Here's the sticky part if you're the next drivers in line to try and battle for the lucky dog. Hartsoff and Mulliken have been battling back and forth side by side much of this run. And they have just fallen off the pace by about 20 car lengths to where they need to be in roads. So the more they fight, the more they'll lose time. I think they might be able to get up to at least LeVere if they work together. It's just a matter of, will the lead lap car let someone on lap down, let on by? Armsoft that time doesn't help both of their cases by clipping the apron.
Diving down to the apron, the tyre was all well and good, but you do not want to clip it through the corners. The load going through the car, it will unsettle you, and 9 times out of 10 it puts you into a spin that you do not want to have to save in the middle of a big group of guys.
And that's the tricky part, Ryan, of running all the way down to the white line in turn 3, because if you run it low enough, you hit a big bump that jars that line up by about 6 inches almost. That could snap your car tight the rest of the corner in turn 4. If you hit that splitter, it can mess up your entire run and put you up for grabs for getting past. So you have to balance that out. Speaking of balancing things out, Shelton's balancing out by completely breaking away from Mullins and breaking the draft.
Battle for P11, heavily affected by the lapped car of Michael Abrams. Dustin Johnson just went to make the move, had to lift off, and the rear end almost came around on him through the entry of turn 3, the middle of turn 4. He was very fortunate there, and he was fortunate that Joshua Adams had lifted off on the outside and given him plenty of room to work with. Otherwise, that may have been our second caution of the evening.
Yeah, and I think Johnson, part of this too is, again, there's a lap car in front of him. That's Michael Abrams, as you mentioned a little bit, and he's loose.
Gathers it up just about halfway through the run for these guys after restarting on lap number 59, 57. Just shy of halfway through the run, I should say.
Indeed.
Look at this group behind CJ Lavere. A mix of lapped cars and leaders. First car behind him is Larry Mulliken, but Justin Bolton is really fast and right behind him, and now he's alongside him, and now he's ahead of him. So Bolton about to challenge Lavere for P6.
This is about the run, time of the run where Bolton started turning up the speed even more. Last time by it was about a 10th quicker than the leader. Here's the problem. He's 6 seconds behind Shelton. Before, he was charging to the field with Shelton. So that caution flag really put him behind where he wanted and needed to be for this point of the run, for his car to be quick enough potentially to try and battle for the race lead. Even if it stays green, it might be too big of a gap we'll have to see for him to try and close out over the span 50 laps.
And Shelton's got a 1.8 second gap back to Mullins in second. He was able to break that toe and done something we haven't seen anyone else do today so far, and that is break away and get free of the clutches of the slipstream. So he's done a really good job showing his pace up at the front and continuing to stretch that margin bit by bit as we hit 50 laps to go here in Chicagoland.
Back to that point of the run where we see Nexus work together, and this is where they broke away from the draft as a group. They weren't as quick as Shelton or as Bolton, though. Remember, in those first 45 laps. Expect at least all these drivers to pit within a lap or two of one another to try and make sure they're all in the same cycle. To try
Once
and
the first guy comes
win
in
this race.
Yeah, once the first guy comes in, you have to respond, don't you? Because once they get back out there on fresh tyres, they're going to gain a monumental amount of time each and every lap. And if it stays green, which you got to put your bets on, you're going to find yourself losing handfuls of seconds worth of time, even for staying out an extra 3 laps even.
Yeah, that's the tricky part with the strategy at this point, because for these cars, yes, you can go with the undercut. By give or take 5 laps, you're likely going to be good on pace. But as Miller did scrape the wall, mind you, for that reasoning, that's why the position swap there. The tires are the concern of if you go too far on an overcut, At a track like Chicagoland, the fall-off's not big enough for it to work to, say, a 10-lap undercut to be able to blister on by in some cases. I've seen drivers be able to do it, but you need to have the fastest car, one of the fastest cars in the field to properly execute it.
Let's see how this one pans out. 46 to go. And we still wait for the beginning of our final cycle of pit stops under green flag conditions. Really tight between Moose and Miller now. After Moose got by, Miller trying his best to stick with it. I think we're seeing some really good pace from that number 4 car and potentially going to...
Curious when they elect to come down, and mind you, just at the back end of the draft is still Boyd Hogan on 7/10 back. By the way, for those keeping track and trying to learn things, Shelton's currently running the pace some drivers can run on fresh tires, according to some of the competitors. That's how quick that leader has been. 31.4s. Not even 2 seconds of fall off in this run in the span of 40 laps. One of the drivers who have been in this ballpark this entire run. We've talked about the speed of Shelton. Again, that's been Bolton running the 31.39 at the moment. A bit quicker than the leader, but is again 6 seconds back. There's a chance he jumps up to second by the end of this run.
I reckon if we get a caution here, Justin, Bolton will be able to challenge Shelton. And that will be a very good fight, I think, because I think they've got very similar pace, but just been a tale of two different races for the two of them. Shelton getting into clean air, Bolton being buried in traffic.
I think it's more so similar long run pace, if not a bit quicker for Bolton. The short run pace, I think that's really going to be the true test if we do get one, as pit stops are underway with some of the lap cars. That's William Arnshaw who's coming down, one of the LaRue team members.
And the leader, Nicholas Shelton, comes to pit road. He doesn't want to get undercut. He's the first driver to blink. And with 40 laps to go, he says, now's the time. Ooh.
And Plant just wrecked in turn 3 and 4. Wow.
Oh, another car involved too. Modem simulation replay going to tell us what's happened. Side by side, they run. That's Plant on the inside, drifting up the track. Hernandez up top. Down the back straight. Here comes the 20, taking him 3 wide on the entry to turn 3. And Hernandez just turned down. Plant was running very high in the middle of 3. And Hernandez, yeah, I don't know.
I think that was a spotter call, basically, that said you're too wide. Because when the car on the top line gets clear of the driver on the bottom line, it will tell you too wide, even if that middle car is not clear. I think that was the case. Didn't realize that he was not clear yet, and that's why he's still stuck in the middle line. Just completely misjudged in part with that, too.
Yeah, you'll see it from the onboard here. He can't even see that car down low. And I think also Plant was probably a bit higher than he needed to be for that instance there, especially with how quickly that 20 car was clearing. So I think probably both drivers can be to blame there. And either way, the end result is a caution and big damage to both cars. How does this work out for Shelton? So everyone else comes down to pit road now. He'd already made it past the commitment cone and was in the lane when the caution flew.
But he didn't take service, Ryan. That's the main thing. That caution just lost him all his track position. All of it.
So explain the ruling to us there, Justin, in terms of pit stops if you're in the lane when the caution flies.
Well, I'd put it this way. Depending on the track, you can still take your service if you're still in the lane if you stay on the lead lap. Here's the difficult part. Whoever scored the leader at the time, if they come across the stripe and the pace car starts rolling, it can pin you a lap down or force you to be a wave around and pin you into traffic. So most times in those cases, you have to let your car roll through, and guess what? Because of that, Shelton, on top of that with a speeding penalty, is now back in the teens.
Wow. So, the dominant man in the middle portion of the race finds himself buried. He finds himself in 16th place with work to do if he wants to win this race still. And the driver that capitalizes from all of this is going to be James Mullins. And Shelton going to have an EOL. So he's going to restart at the tail end of the lead lap cars.
And for those wondering, by the way, in this situation, everyone had to pit. So at this point, 22 cars now in the lead lap, give or take. The wave around puts you in a tough situation. So at this point, everyone's going to be at least on fresh tires in most of this field. Except for one driver, it's Keith Vaughn electing to take a wave, it looks like. Make it 2. And 3. And all the numbers. Either way, they need a quick caution, Ryan, for that to work.
Yes, they do. Now, 34 odd laps to go when we restart. Going to be a very close fight. We've got some very fast drivers caught in traffic for this restart. We've got some aggressive drivers up near the front. How do you see this one playing out?
Honestly, I'm curious what Bolton has in short run pace, because we haven't seen him really outside of traffic. On a start, this is the highest up he's been on a restart today. So I think based on how his car does, it can dictate how the rest of this run goes, as well as how hard drivers like Shelton push to the back of the field to regain the track position, who have that short run pace we've seen proven so far. The difficult part is, once more, 1, 2, 3 Nexus drivers, which means there's a chance it will be like trying to run through a brick wall of teammates.
Ooh, I know the one thing. This is going to be a grandstand finish in Chicagoland Speedway for our 17th week of the season, following the real schedule, all 36 weeks, how they should have played out in 2020 on the NASCAR calendar, the Cup Series. We get the 1 to go signal this time by likes to go out on top of the Ford Mustang pace car, and they will stack up 2 by 2. It'll be Moose and Mullins on the front row. Mullins will have Miller and Bolton behind him. Bolton with a golden opportunity now with the pace he's got to restart outside row 2. And Nicholas Shelton, he is 20th. and he's behind all of the laps cars.
Which is going to be ever more frustrating. But already a couple drivers are communicating over the radio that they will give him space if he needs it. Because as we've seen, it's been a rocket ship tonight. Now, we're about to see if that rocket ship can soar in time to make it through the field. We've seen some decent gaps built up over the course of 40, 50 lap runs tonight, Ryan. We're about to see how the short to mid-run pace overall for these teams have now gone.
These last laps are going to go by in a flash. This is going to be a cracker. This jump, this restart, crucial for Moose to get himself clear and get some clean air on that nose and try to pull away if he can. Pace car going to dive down and get out of the way in the hands of Patrick Moose. Looking to go back racing from Chicagoland. We get the green flag out, and we're back underway. Forced start for Bolton. He gets forced up the track, top of 3 wide for a moment, and the caution is straight back out and into the back.
And Nick Miller got turned around, and he tried to go 3-4 wide as Shelton cut to the apron underneath Dustin Johnson, and Sela just held his line while an air driver, as mentioned, Miller, was the man who was trying to jump the start. What in the world were they thinking? Yeah, look at this. Keep in mind, you don't get a black flag if you try and make a pass on a car on the right side in iRacing, and he tried to exploit that. Sheila did not leave space, 3 wide already, with Shelton taking advantage on the bottom, and that turns him.
Well, that will be mightily disappointing for everyone that was gearing up to get their race face back on, and for everyone watching on at home as well. Back under caution again. So, tough as a driver to go from setting yourself up to go back green to not getting that. A lot of adrenaline pumping suddenly with nowhere to go.
Well, Jonathan Darwinple now has a place to go. That's the lead lap. So at least he's going to be in that case now. 21 cars on the lead lap. And by the way, that's the caution the wave around cars I think wanted to see.
Yeah, it's definitely been great for those lapped cars. Now, Dalrymple looks like he's got the lucky dog, and he will squeeze by on the back straight. He's a lucky dog. He'll have an opportunity to pit on the next lap if he wants to get some fresh rubber. Everyone else, though, there's no reason to pit. They literally made it about 100 meters at full noise. So those tires are still brand spanking new. Weather conditions, it's continued to cool down, but not as drastically as it did at the start. 87 degrees Fahrenheit now, 31 degrees Celsius.
Once again, getting back to that cool side, and the adjustment periods, again, are important as a team, because normally you adjust your car to how the weather conditions potentially could change throughout some of the long runs and how you want the car to run at specific points of the race. It's hard to plan when the grip levels are drastically changing based on the position of the clouds. As now Darwinple has to let all their cars go here, remember, as the Lucky Dog has to start at the end of the longest line, as Nexus does the V formation up in the front.
Hey, 3 wide. 3 wide under caution for the lead of the race. Now that would be a good sight if we get that going back green. Don't discount it as a possibility either. I think the odds of us going green towards the end and getting at least a very long green flag run in here are pretty high. Seen some big green flag runs already. That one incident at the back, the exception to the rule there on the restart. Justin Bolton has an opportunity to figure out how to do his restarts properly this time, because he had a shocker. He was saved by the early caution, though.
That caution actually puts him on the preferred line for the restart, too. Because if you start on the top, you're likely losing at least a couple spots, as we've seen each time this race. Now, he has the chance to gain some of those spots back and build up a decent run by the time to get to turn 3, as a result. Here's the interesting point too, Ryan. Remember, a lot of teams do adjust for their setups and build setups in specific conditions. I don't know how many build their cars for the 80s. Hearing some drivers, such as Hogan, built it for the 110 range tonight, Ryan, unfortunately.
Yeah, caught out by the varying track temps you see over the different races throughout the week. Only 5 of them, but still, if you run 2, they can be at varying and wildly different ends of the temperature spectrum. And we're getting on today that was very much colder than I think a lot of these guys were expecting and had practiced for. Lights go out, we get 1 to go signal, and we can get ready to go back racing in a moment's time.
This is going to be, again, fairly intense. This is the part of the race where cautions breed cautions. Since, again, we've seen it several times and talked about it several times. When drivers know they can make it on fuel, they're going to try and push until they are 17 wide all the way to the RVs in the infield, if they can, to try and make some passes.
I'd pay to see that.
I mean, I've seen 5 wide at some tracks.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to happen tonight, but...
Won't end well if they try it here. I think 4 wide's the maximum this place in iRacing. Alright, so Moose going to look to get another restart similar to the one he had, where he got a fantastic jump. Mullins going for a bit of a better restart. Bolton hoping for a much better restart, this time from 5th rather than 4th, so it might be slightly more difficult for him to see when the leader goes. Pace car's out of the way. Let's try this again. The green flag's back out. We're back underway. And it is a better start for Bolton back there. And not a great start for Moose. Mullins has gone right with him and tucks in behind. Robert Miller, the city of cars, lined up behind him in 3rd.
And that's the exact start expected from Bolton. Good momentum on the bottom side. Able to get a much better launch on that line. And now because of that, able to start picking away at the Nexus cars on the short run.
For Copper, tried to defend as Hogan looked to his inside, couldn't do it, had to dart back to the top of the track. That cost him a lot of momentum. Now Seth Ryder is going to go by him, and Blake Nia going to follow him through as well. Robert Miller stuck up top 2 after Hogan got by. Your top 3 under a blanket here, and challenging for the race lead is James Mullins. Patrick Moose under pressure with 26 laps to go.
And this is, again, a little bit of concern. Bolton pushed a little bit off and on throughout this run and was very patient the first 20 laps in the first half of this race. I think at this point might be going again half throttle, save the front tires, and preserve that right front and the right rear to make sure he can fly by these cars at about 10-15.
And no one's going to break away now. Not with how even these guys are in terms of their tires. They're all fresh, and they're all pushing as hard as they can with such a short amount of time left in this race. And they are wooded up inside this top 10. Oh no, slow car through the grass, rejoins. Very slow getting it back up to speed. I think hoping for a caution. Fortunately, one does not fly. Hogan showing the nose into 3. Not able to get there as behind Blake Neer under pressure.
It's the hectic news we're expecting on this short run. So here again, good on the first 20 laps tonight. Again, showing the pace. One of the other drivers who may have built the car towards the hot temps.
Robert Miller gets to his inside, had a huge burst of momentum to the middle of 1 and 2. And the caution comes out.
I think it's one of the Johnsons. And it's both the Johnsons, in fact. Apparently, Austin Johnson clipped the apron and pushed right up into Dustin Johnson.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah, clipped the apron a little bit in 1 and 2, and that's why he was so tight on the exit. Just drifted up into the 60, and both of them sent off into the grass as a result, with significant damage on Austin Johnson's car from that.
Synchronized spin down there. So after 1 caution in the first half of the race, we've got 3 in the last 10 laps here, which is a shame. We'll go to a quick break here on SimSpeed TV on the iRacing Esports Network. When we come back, we'll have the rest of the racing action. Welcome back to Chicagoland Speedway. Some pit stops happening throughout this caution period, and that means a change was Robert Miller emerging as the race leader, with Hogan second, Bolton third, Mullins fourth, Blake Neer, the 5th car out of the lane. And to have change in commentary, Justin unfortunately having to step aside, and I wish I could say an adequate caution here, an adequate replacement, but it's not. It's Jake Kennedy.
Thank you for that wonderful, wonderful introduction. What a race it's been, though, despite your beautiful introduction. It's going to be an interesting finish. Interesting, while we went for that break there, that everyone pitted out what's on the lead lap. Robert Miller, the only one that took 2 tyres, so it's going to be a big risk for him. I think he would have been hoping a lot more of the field had done that. He will probably get run over and realise pretty quickly that was a bad move. Boyd Hogan, though, very, very good stop from him, coming out in second. Probably effective leader right now.
Yeah, we'll see how this pans out for Miller. I think maybe he felt he didn't have the outright pace to just go out there, outrace them and win this one, so had to try something, and that something was a 2 tyres stop. Thought we would have got the 1-to-go signal that time, but we didn't. So we'll do another extra lap under the pace car here. It seems like we're doing an extra lap under the pace car all day long, actually.
Yeah.
Weirdly enough.
I felt the same thing because I know I'd messaged you and JP a couple of times to say this would be 2 to go or 1 to go, and we ended up with 2 laps extra. So
We also know you can't count, so there's also that.
Well, remember the iRacing update did come out with shorter cautions, but it seems that they may have reverted back to slightly longer.
Shorter cautions on the long tracks.
Is this not a long track?
This is 1.5 miles, Jay.
I'd say this is long enough.
No. Oh, I missed Justin already. So... Who's your pick then, with 18 to go in the restart?
I will not pick anyone because everyone knows that whoever I pick crashes out or gets run over, so I will not do it to anyone. I'll pick someone that's already DNF'd or is a fair way down. We'll go Jonathan Hernandez. Started P2 and it's been all downhill from here for him, so I'll pick him now to make sure I don't ruin anyone else's race because he has already had a shocker. I don't think the commentator's curse for me will make his day any worse.
Can't argue with that logic.
Pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've been doing this for 9 years and I still haven't got a pick right in my entire time commentating.
You've been commentating for 9 years?
I have been, yep.
Would never have picked that.
I'm still hopeless. That's why I get stuck behind the camera and not on the microphone. But no, this is going to be a great restart though. 17 to go when we go green. If it stays green, anyone in that top 10 could literally win this race. Be interesting to see what Shelton can do as he makes his way back forward as well. He got back up to 13, so he passed around about half of the cars he needed to pass. But again, on fresh tyres again, he might be able to make a bigger move this time.
And crucially, no laps cars between them now.
Yes.
So Miller, Hogan, 2 tyres versus 4 tyres versus the field on this restart. Look out for Bolton from third. This could get dicey. Pace cars out of the way. Miller's in control. Back to the green flag we go. Hogan tried to judge it, and he did judge it very well. He goes with him. And James Mullen's got a great jump. He goes to the middle of the racetrack. Bolton has to lift off and slot back into 4th. Look how tight they are through 1 and 2. Miller watching up the racetrack. 3 wide for the lead of the race. Hogan in the middle. Mullins down low. Here comes Bolton as well with the push to the back of the 10, pushing him to the lead. Miller falling back as Moose slides through the corner. And crash in the background. Someone spins. And that looks like it may take out a whole bunch of cars.
Yep. Keith Bridgman was involved there. Adams, Wilborn, Rhodes. There's a lot of cars involved there. A little bit of a blessing in disguise for Robert Miller because he'll be able to go and try and work out the strategy again. But Daniel Wilborn, his day is done. Looks like his car didn't make it through that at all.
So, Mr. Director, can we get a replay?
Coming up right now.
Well,
gonna have to go back a little bit further than I originally thought. So we'll watch the full lap there.
we all know you can't multitask. So we saw Moose have a big slide through 3 and 4. He gathered it up, and then behind him, it all went horribly. Here's Wesley Pistol. There's Daniel Wilborn. It stemmed somewhere around here. They're already wrecking. Wilborn has to dive to the grass, and no, you can't steer on the grass. And he managed to hit 2 of them. That's pretty unlucky for him.
I did see Adams was one of those cars that was shooting across the circuits and onto the grass. So we'll see. There we go.
Oh, that's where it started. That was the car on the inside drifting up. Adams put his nose in the hole, and the hole shut. And they came together. And when you wreck off the exit of a corner like that, very rarely do you escape.
That was Bridgman.
Yeah.
This changes everything, doesn't it?
In what way?
Well, what do these guys do? You know, if Mullins knows that everyone in that top 5, 6 will stay out, but you know, does someone back in the field roll the dice, come in, grab another set of tyres and try something else, or do they make a quick adjustment to the car considering how much that track temp has dropped in the last 10, 15 minutes? Track temp is still dropping fairly quickly.
Yeah, it is. If I'm Miller, I'm coming to pit road because that 2-tire gamble did not come off very well at all. Bridgman is in the lane, and he's the only driver who has decided to come to pit lane from the lead lap. Where is Miller, actually?
P15.
He dropped so much so quickly.
Yep.
He was good for 1 and 2, and then suddenly through the exit of turn 2, the car just washed up, and he lost so much time down the back straight. Through 3 and 4, he got drifted up the racetrack as well on the outside of 2 and 3 wide.
I'm actually now thinking about that incident just there. Was his slow pace what actually triggered a few of those cars to come together with a little bit of checking up, forcing 3 wide and then causing that incident?
Yeah, here's a replay.
Let me click the right button.
Turning mic up while you're at it.
Yep, sorry. I've clicked the wrong button. As you said, I can't multitask. Here we go.
Jesus. Here we go. So, it was a good jump for Miller. In terms of no wheel spin, he didn't manage to jump away from anyone, and they were really tightly condensed to 1 and 2. He's all good, and then suddenly it just drifts right there. Up the track he goes. Couldn't keep it glued down. Ends up on the outside of 3 wide. Bolton gave a good shot to Mullins to push him to the lead. The 4 car, right there, has a big wobble.
And have a look
Miller's
where the
up in the
24
marbles.
is.
Oh. Wow. How lucky is Moose that wobble didn't put him in the clutches of that crash?
Now, my question now is...
How did he end up 15th?
Well, yeah, that was what I was about to say. How is Miller back in 15th? Because at that point there, he's ahead of Moose. Moose is in 6th. Something else has happened. Not sure what it is, because we're going to come back live. We hopefully will be getting the one to go the signal. Which will give us an 11-lap dash to the checkered flag.
Miller was on pit road,
Okay.
I think. Unless that's the previous caution. You can't yell out your dog's name when you're commentating, Jay.
I can when I've muted other
Oh.
things.
So I'm the only one that heard.
You're the only one that heard me yelling at the dog. No one would even have known.
Well, I knew.
They've just ruined it.
Yeah, now
You
everyone
can-
knows. That
and you can
now
probably hear it
everyone
as well.
knows you yell at your dog. So, we have half a lap to go.
I mean, she's barking the neighbour down, you know.
That's what dogs do, Jay. They bark. It's how they communicate. This stream has really gone down the drain since you came into commentary.
Come back, JP! This is why I don't commentate, people. People keep saying, oh, Jay, why don't you commentate anymore? You're a good commentator. And all I have to do is link them streams like this and people see why I don't commentate anymore. But we're
Yep.
about to go green.
Thank goodness for this. All right, let's see if we can finish it off this time by 11 laps to go. Mullins in control. Bolton's back on the front row. Green flag is back out. That's a fantastic jump for Mullins. Hogan and Bolton stuck side by side. Everyone stacking up behind them 2 by 2. Down through 1 they go. Hogan prevailing. Seth Ryder going to prevail as well. Bolton going backwards. The outside line, not the place you want to be on these restarts. Look at them fan out down that back straight.
Where did Oliveira come from? Because we have not talked about him all day, and currently P5 in that number 17 car. He's been nowhere near the front all race long and is now in contention for the win.
Boyd Hogan to the front with a forcible move through turn 3 to get by Mullins. Contact up into the fence. Heavy contact for Blake Neer. Somehow he keeps the car straight, but that is going to be race-ending damage to him. He absolutely smashed that fence on the right side of the car. It was the 4 of Patrick Moose that got loose in the middle and pushed him up. Not sure if there was contact from the car on the very low side of the track that caused that wobble for Moose. We'll take a look later on if we can. It's still close at the front. Hogan has got Mullins to his outside, trying to go the long way round.
We haven't seen anyone be able to go around the outside all race long. It's going to be a tough ask for James Mullins to do it, but if anyone could do it at this point of the race, it would be someone like Mullins. We know the caliber of driver he is, but look at this. He's got back to the inside for turns 1 and 2.
Great over-under move, helped out too by the front bumper of Seth Ryder, giving him a helping hand. They're scrapping behind for 4th. That's Dustin Johnson. Wait, wasn't he in that crash?
Yes. He was in the previous caution, and Nicholas Shelton, fastest lap of the race, is there in P5 in that bright green number 3.
This is going to erupt. At the line, nothing between your top 2. 5 thousandths of a second, the official margin that time. Look how close Johnson and Ryder are through 1 and 2 that time. Here comes Shelton to the bottom of the racetrack. He takes him 3 wide. He's not waiting around. Can he keep the momentum up on that extreme shallow line? Oh, contact for the race lead into the fence. And this is going to take out 4 of your top 5. Shelton through the grass. Wow. Monumental shunt. And every single one of your race leaders involved in that crash.
Just when we thought this race couldn't do anything else to surprise us, that happens. That is huge in the context of this race. Hogan and Mullins making contact. And that was a weird incident. I'll tell you who came out of that quite okay. Looks like it been Rotier, because he was up against the wall, didn't hit the wall. Might have got away with that okay. And also Justin Bolt took the grass. Might have got away with that okay. But cars that are not okay, Boyd Hogan obviously not okay. James Mullins not okay as well.
Wow. Shelton did a great job to dive down the racetrack and onto the grass. Onboard might tell us, hint, hint, if he actually made contact before he dived down to the left. It was very close if he didn't. Bolton definitely got a piece of it. And it looked like that was Seth Ryder that might have parted the seas and slipped through on the top. So potentially 2 cars making it through unscathed. We'll take a look at some onboards here. So this is... Whoa. He missed that by the skin of his teeth. Great reactions to take a hard left turn and miss that one. And Seth Ryder, we get a shot from... Nope. Damn it, Jay. Yeah, Ryder did miss it. He's got no damage. And, in fact, Mullins has emerged in second out of all this still. And so, despite... damage. Yeah, despite washing up into Hogan and triggering that, he stays out. He does have damage to the front right, but he's hoping that it won't end his race and he can still fight.
Well, probably taking the lesser of 2 evils, knows that if he pits, he's going to drop all the way back to, say, P20, P25. He stays out and drops back through the field. He might still finish in the top 10. So, you know, got to work out which is going to be best, but there's some cars that are very, very beaten up from that one. Blake Neer also coming into fixed damage when we saw him in the wall not that long ago as well. We're going to end up with a green white checker here.
We are, but Boyd Hogan stayed out as well.
Doing the same thing as Mullins.
Everyone that was involved in that has actually stayed out, I think.
Yeah, the one I'm most surprised about is Dustin Johnson. He did pit, so I take that back. I thought he was still out, but no, he did pit and has got a fair bit of damage fixed. Looks like the car isn't as bad as I would have thought because he was the one that came out worse out of that entire incident.
So not only did the top 5 wreck, they wrecked and managed to avoid wrecking themselves.
Semi-survive.
Yeah. That's remarkable. So, we'll stack the top 5 up again and go again. Same 5 guys up there. But this time, Nicholas Shelton gets to restart from the front. He's got damage to his rear end, though. Just notice that rear bumper's pushed in massively on the center of the car. Mullins, his right side's tore up. Reiter looks relatively clean. Bolton looks relatively clean. Hogan's left side is tore up. And then Oliveira clean as well in 6th. He's got Robert Miller on those 2 tyres, back into 7th.
We're going to have a green-white checker as well. 2 laps till green, 3 laps to go in the race, so we will go into overtime.
3 attempts at NASCAR overtime, the green-white checkered system. The caution comes out between the green flag flying and the white flag flying. We'll try it again. But if we make it back to the white flag, we'll race back to the checkers no matter what happens.
Now remember when that first caution came out, we were saying there was only 18 cars on the lead lap or 19 cars on the lead lap. We're now back at 29 cars on the lead lap. Shows you how much a race can change based on cautions and different strategies. What are you laughing at?
Just read the YouTube chat. Thank you for that observation. YRB12.
Well done. For those who don't know, Ryan and I have been up literally all night, have had about an hour and a half sleep from streaming and broadcasting all night long. So at this point now, we are very, very tired, and we're
idiots.
We're both have completely lost the plot and probably shouldn't be in charge of something on the internet right now, but this could be crazy, wild and fun for you guys as much listening to us talk and try and make coherent sentences as this final 3 laps of the race or 2 laps of the race.
Well, the observation that he made was the fact that I observed that the top 5 wrecked.
Yep.
Not only did they wreck, but they wrecked themselves.
Yep.
And it's like saying the floor here is made of floor.
Yep. You know,
so,
the road is made of road.
It's made of tarmac, actually, Jay.
Well, what is tarmac? Tarmac is road. See what I mean? I can't make coherent sentences. You take it away, Ryan. I can't talk.
Something you haven't seen because you've been locked in your room broadcasting for the last 3 months straight.
Sunlight.
So let's try this. The first overtime finish of the day. Looking to see if we can make it back to the white flag and finish this one without another caution intervention. It's Shelton and Mullins on the front row. Both of them have damage. Row 2, their cars are clean. This should be wild. Pace car out of the way. Let's try this. Green flag in the air. Back underway for Chicagoland Speedway. Great jump for Shelton. Mullins ducks down to the bottom of the racetrack straight away. And Shelton is pulling a margin. Mullins has got no pace. And Reiter dives to his inside. Moose tried to give a big push, and that didn't quite work out. Look at Bolton up on the top side of the track as well. They're 3 wide for second. Shelton is checking out up front. Reiter takes away that second place. The white flag is out one more time around at Chicagoland Speedway as Bolton and Mullins almost come together. What a wad of cars we've got in the battle for P2. Nicholas Shelton in his rearview mirror, seeing cars strewn across the racetrack, but no one close enough to challenge. Through the final corner for the final time today, at a turn number 4, Nicholas Shelton. After starting from the back, he's going to take this checkered flag. And he wins in Chicagoland. Reiter in second. And it will be Robert Miller home in third, despite that two-tire gamble. It works out in the end.
What a race that was. It had literally everything. That huge long green flag run at the start. Amazing strategy gambles that everyone took. And how good was the pace? We knew that if Schultz was able to get a bit of a run and a bit of clean track, that he had some amazing pace. A speeding penalty to drop him to the back of the line didn't hurt him. In the end, still picks up the win. Congratulations.
Fantastic effort. And he will be stoked with that. Had to fight really hard for that. After fighting up the order early on. And then getting pinned back at the rear end of the field with that early caution. When he made the trip to pit lane right as it came out. Had to get back up there. And did a fantastic job of it. So, Nicholas Shelton takes home the victory by 0.4 of a second. Seth Ryder coming home in second, ahead of Robert Miller in third. Justin Bolton, Patrick Moose, 4th and 5th. James Mullins in 6th. Michael Abrams, Jonathan Dalrymple, Eduardo Oliveira, and Carl Rhodes running out your top 10.
And we've got Garcia and Larry Mulliken, 11th and 12th. Joshua Campbell and Nick Miller, 13th and 14th. Chris Wright, Austin Johnson, Keith Vaughan, Wesley Pascoe, Matt Focopa, and William Amshoff, rounding out the top 20.
We saw here Joe Krebs, Joshua Adams making up your top 25. Boyd Hogan, after that contact, fell back to 26 on the restart. Blake Neer, Dustin Johnson, Ty Ippolito, and Jake Waltman making up your 30 cars, and the first car a lap down.
And the last group of cars, Plant, Hernandez, Baker, Wilborn, Hall, and Ericsson. Only 2 laps down or further other than Plant. Remember, Plant was involved in one of those early cautions as well.
So, at the end of 134 laps, we saw an incredible race. We had a bit of strategy in there, despite the cautions coming out at inopportune times for some guys. It forced some fast people down the order at a number of occasions, and in the end, it was the fast guy that prevailed despite all of that. Nicholas Shelton, the NASCAR iRacing Coca-Cola Series driver, that takes home the checkered flag for the first time on a Friday night in top split of the NASCAR iRacing Series. So, from us here in the booth, we are going to say good night, and thank you for tuning in. My name was Ryan Jones. We had Justin Prince alongside for most of the broadcast. Jake Kennedy jumped in at the end to commentate behind the cameras as well for the entire stream. Thank you for tuning in, and good night. We'll see you next time.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now. He's got traction. He's got everything outside of both of them. Maloney. Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up to him. Oh, my God. Oh, big crash. Oh, my goodness. Half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh, no. That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh, my God.
God, what?